So you just bought your first house, or maybe you've been in it for a few years and you're ready to do some renovations. But the question is, which renovations are worth it and which ones should you stay away from? In this video, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to talk about ROI, or return on investment, and other ones that maybe you don't do it because of the ROI, but just because it's something you enjoy. But ultimately, I want to make sure you're in the know so that you can make the best decision when it comes to these renovations on your home. We're going to break it down from outdoor renovations to avoid, indoor renovations to avoid. We'll talk about certain design trends that maybe you should ignore, and then we will get into some of the best renovations you can do if you're looking to make a high ROI down the road. And even if you're in your home and you're like, hey, this is my forever home, I don't care about what's going to be increasing my home value, I just want to do what I like, that's totally understandable. But I can say for certain, there's plenty of clients I've had who thought they were going to be in their forever home and they weren't. And so I think this video will give you a good idea of how to maybe even blend some of those where you're still getting what you want, but also keeping functionality and possibly increasing the value of your home. All right, so let's start off with outdoor renovations to avoid. And the first one I'm gonna go with is some of the components of an outdoor kitchen. Now, we've all seen those homes that have beautiful covered outdoor kitchens, and it's a great entertainment space. You can be grilling out, you maybe have the pool out there, you got the TV on and music playing, and that is awesome. The grill itself, I don't know many people that are going to regret having a built-in grill like that. It always looks great. Something to keep in mind though, the outdoor sink, for example, or even some people get the ice maker out there, a lot of times those go unused in my experience. Now this is going to vary by location. If you live in a colder climate, maybe you live in like a Minnesota or a Michigan, though outdoor kitchens might not be common in the first place there, but if you do have one, just keep in mind you may only be able to use it for 3 to 4 months out of the year. And so when you do, something like a sink, for example, a lot of times that sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't necessarily get used. When you're done cleaning up from the cooking, a lot of times you can just walk inside and you end up using either the indoor sink or even the dishwasher. And so in my experience and from talking to clients, the outdoor sink is something that doesn't get used, and you could end up using that space for maybe some more counter space. All right, next up, maybe a little controversial. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but I'm gonna say one to avoid is the pool. Now keep in mind, like I said in the beginning of the video, this video is focused on renovations that give you the highest return on your investment. And so I'm not saying to never put a pool in your backyard or to never put a sink in your outdoor kitchen. But with the pool, I think there's a misconception that the pool delivers a very high ROI. And really that's not always the case. It's usually said that if you have the right home in the right area and the pool is done right, meaning they're typically talking about in-ground pools with the fancy stone and maybe a lot of landscaping, and maybe you have a waterfall, that you're adding roughly 7% of your home's current value to your home. And honestly, I think it could be less than that. You have to keep in mind, there are some people out there who just don't even want a home with a pool. Maybe they are just uncomfortable with the idea of having little kids and a home, and a pool, or maybe they just simply don't want the maintenance that comes along with having a pool, and they'd rather just have some green space or some outdoor entertainment space. And so if you're going to get one of these really crazy luxury designed pools, the cost can be $50,000, $100,000 or more, depends on how crazy you go, of course, and the area you're in. And also think about, are you someone who's going to use the pool multiple times a week, or maybe your kids are young and they want to swim every day, then maybe this is something you want to go for. Also keep in mind the maintenance. Are you going to do the maintenance yourself? Are you going to hire a company to do the maintenance for you? There's a lot more that goes into having a pool in your backyard. I know from personal experience, I talked to someone who was showing me around their home, and it was beautiful. They had done a ton of updates, And when they went to the backyard, they're like, yeah, we put this pool in, like it's so much nicer than they referenced a home on the street that had sold recently. And I had to explain, like, honestly, in my experience, and a lot of realtors will tell you this, having a pool in the backyard, as nice as it may be, doesn't really add that much value to your home, especially not for what you probably paid for that. All right, next up is outdoor playground equipment. Now this, especially when you get into the really nice, like with wood built ones, just think about over time, it is gonna warp and fade, and it can eventually look a little rough and almost deter people from the home, especially if a new potential home buyer is touring the home and they see that as a headache of like, oh great, I've got to get this removed now, right? So again, it's something to consider. Obviously, if you have kids and you think they would enjoy that, then by all means, that is your decision to do that. But if it's something that you think, oh, you know what, my kids we want to get some playground equipment for our kids, let's just not get the cheap kind, like let's go all out, let's get this really nice wood built one. Again, if you're doing it for the reasons of seeing a return on your investment later, that is one I would avoid. And the last outdoor renovation to avoid is landscaping. Now, this is a funny one because it's actually one that I'm going to include later in the video as something to do, but when I say landscaping, I'm talking about the extreme, bodacious, over-the-top landscaping. Number one, it can be very expensive if you're hiring a professional landscaper to go and put all these crazy plants and rocks in your yard. It's going to be very expensive just for them to design it and then to install it, and then you got to think about the maintenance. If you just have a simple grass yard, couple trees, maybe a mulch bed or rock bed or two, it's going to be much easier to maintain. And a well-maintained yard and landscaping does wonders for your ROI. So it may not always be worth it to pay for this crazy, bodaciously designed landscaped yard. Of course, if that's something that you really want, then by all means do it, but it's not always going to be the best return on investment. All right, so now let's talk about indoor renovations to avoid. So first up, it's going to be high-end appliances. Now, there's nothing wrong with high-end appliances in themselves, but as you might know now, I mean, we have fridges with screens on them now. People are paying $3,000 to $4,000 just for a refrigerator. If that's something you want, and you really want a digital screen, or you want the freezer that makes the ice balls or the nugget ice, then that's awesome. But that is not something you're going to get a return on investment. Just a simple stainless steel appliance is going to get the job done. And also to keep in mind, appliances just aren't made the way they were used to be made. I have a 2-year-old dishwasher, and we just had a part go out on it. And when I called to have somebody give me a quote to come out and fix that part, they knew exactly what it was because it's a common problem with that brand of dishwasher. And they quoted me $450 to $500 to order the part and install it. So again, that was a 2-year-old dishwasher. So appliances just aren't made the way they were in the past. And so you might want to pump the brakes before you spend that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on that fancy refrigerator. And the same thing goes for high-end fixtures. So if you maybe you want a chandelier, or there's a really nice fancy like all chrome light fixture that you really want, that's awesome, but that may not be everyone's cup of tea. So before you go and spend that $1,000, $2,000 on that chandelier, if you are trying to make an investment where you will see a return later on, you will not see one for these crazy, outrageous light fixtures. Real quick, before we get on with the rest of the video, I'd love for you to leave a comment below and let me know which one of those renovations that I said to avoid that you agree with or maybe disagree with. If you have an experience with doing one of those renovations, did you enjoy it? Do you think it was worth it? Or do you agree maybe I should have held off on that. All right, and we're gonna get on the best renovations to do for your home for the highest ROI, but I wanted to talk about some design trends to avoid real quick. I think everyone, if you've been home shopping in the last 5, maybe even 10 years, you've definitely seen that home that was clearly a flip, where everything in it is just white and gray. I think we're slowly starting to see that fade away. I don't notice the gray LVP floors anymore, but you definitely notice it in the kitchen still with the backsplash and the cabinet and everything like that. One thing I'm starting to see now is kind of that like moody green, like a little bit darker green, or even some light blues and gold hardware. And I'm not saying that's bad. In a lot of cases, it looks great, but I would be cautious on following current design trends if you're doing it for the reason of thinking, oh, this is going to create a high ROI, just because it is a design trend at the end of the day. And so we all know trends come and go. And as we saw with the gray and white, not a lot of people like that anymore, and that's starting to fade out. Keep in mind, if you want to paint a room like a lavender purple, by all means do that. Paint is cheap relative to changing out things like the tile in a bathroom, or changing out the backsplash or countertops. So if you want to make a change, you want to paint the walls or maybe the cabinets. Painting the cabinets is a little more intensive. By all means do so, but I would be cautious on changing out backsplashes and tiles and things like that to current design trends. Another thing that's a trend right now that I don't think will necessarily age well, and I could be wrong, the open floor plan has obviously been a trend for a little bit, but especially in the kitchen, there's a trend of really open kitchens. And I think eventually we're gonna see that trend die down, as it's just not functional. Especially when you think about a potential buyer who has a couple kids, or they have a big family, they want cabinet space. And when you don't have cabinet space, you're putting all the appliances on the countertops, and there's not a lot of space. It's just not functional. And so I think that's something that we're gonna see kind of revert back, where I'm not saying the kitchen's gonna be closed off, but when you start knocking out walls, that's less space to put cabinets and appliances and things like that. So in general, when you're going to make these changes, think about functionality, and those will be the things that stand the test of time. All right, so we've talked about what not to do. So now let's talk about some renovations or investments you can do in your home that will provide a high ROI. And I did my best to not come up with ideas or give you ideas that are going to cost a crazy amount of money. I understand not everyone has an extra $20,000 laying around, right? That would be nice, but at that point, you might just go put that towards a down payment on a new home, right? So number one is a high quality entry door. Now these can get really expensive. You can get a decent quality door for, I would say, around $1,000, give or take some, and you can certainly get into the 2000s and more. But if you're willing to spend around $1,000, you can get a very high quality front door, and you would be surprised the difference a great quality front door will make. And if you don't have the money, or you just don't want to spend the money on a new door, as they are kind of hard to install, so you're probably gonna have to include the install cost on that as well. Paint is another option. Just simply giving a fresh coat of paint to the door makes a world of difference, and it adds to your curb appeal as well. When someone's driving by or pulling up, that's going to be one of the first things they notice. And I'll briefly mention the landscaping. I kind of talked about it when we were talking about what to avoid, but the simple landscaping, just freshening up the landscaping, putting down fresh mulch each year, or maybe you have rocks, making sure you're pulling out those weeds and maintaining the lawn, that goes a long way. Again, it adds to the curb appeal, and it adds to the first impression that the potential buyer is going to see. Next up is the outdoor space. And so when you talk about a deck, adding a deck or a patio, like a concrete patio, that can get expensive, especially decks. It depends on the size, materials. You could go for the wooden deck. The composite decks are getting a lot more popular now. The materials can be a little bit cheaper, and they tend to last a good amount of time. But if you don't want to go quite that expensive, a good concrete patio, or even the concrete paver patio, just a way to create an outdoor space, and maybe you hang up some string lights. When people are walking through the home and they see that, they're going to envision themselves bringing family, bringing friends over, and creating memories out there in that backyard. And so that can create a huge ROI for relative minimal cost. Another great idea, we talked about kitchen renovations to avoid. Maybe you don't change out the cabinets, but you could change out the hardware, for example. You can get decent hardware on Amazon. There's certainly more expensive and well-made, even handmade hardware out there that you could buy. But if you're looking for a relatively cheap fix, you could do Amazon hardware, and they make the stencils if you need to drill new holes, although you shouldn't have to. Obviously, if it already has hardware, just make sure you get the ones that line up. But if you do get one that lines up differently, you can get some wood putty, paint over the old hole, and then they have a stencil so you can drill out the holes for the handles and all of that. And just changing out handles on the cabinets can make a huge difference. And the last thing I'll say is think about the high traffic areas, and also I mentioned the functionality. So for example, let's say you have like a 5-bedroom home. To be honest, the 5-bedroom home doesn't fit most families, most buyers out there. I'm not saying that they're not going to sell, but the amount of money that a 5-bedroom home would get to a similar condition and size 4-bedroom home isn't a lot more. Maybe you take that 5th bedroom and you make a huge master walk-in closet, or you add some to the closet, some to the bathroom. You can make an upstairs laundry room, so you have upstairs laundry on the same floor as the primary suite. That is something that's becoming more common, and I think that one will stay around for a while. It's just the convenience and the functionality factor, especially if someone is looking for a 4-bedroom home. They're probably looking for that because they have kids or would like to have kids. And we all know once you have kids, the laundry more than doubles, triples or quadruples. All right, so we covered the renovations to avoid, the current design trends to think about, and even some renovations that could return a lot of money for you in your home. I hope that these were helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there something I missed? I would love to hear about it. And if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Cincinnati area, I would love to help you out so much. I have all my contact information in the description or also on the screen. And if you're in a different area, I do have connections with a lot of great, trustworthy realtors in different cities. And if I don't have somebody that I trust in a different city, I will personally go through the vetting process of interviewing agents to make sure you have a great agent for you. You can use the link in the description, or I have a QR code on my channel homepage if you would like to get a realtor in your area. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.